Christ is risen. Alleluia. Isn't it awesome? It's so exciting. And I want to say welcome. I know Father Alex welcomed everybody at the beginning, but I also want to welcome you here, welcome all of you joining online. If it's your first time being with us here at St. Benedict, whether physically or online, our masses aren't usually this long. And so I just want to put that out there. You know, I've got some good news and some bad news. We're about halfway there. So hang in. There is more to come. But they call this, there's a reason, even in the sacred text, this is referred to, this Easter vigil, it's referred to as the mother of all vigils. So it's pretty serious what we're getting into. And what I love is that beginning part, what's called the Liturgy of the Light, where first we start in darkness, and then the Easter candle, the Paschal candle comes out, and then slowly lights are spread throughout the church, and this glow of light starts to fill the darkness. And as the anticipation builds, then there is the Exultet, which is sung. And by the way, Father Alex, you totally nailed it, brother. That was amazing. I want you to know that is not easy to do. I've definitely had an epic fail on a number of occasions when I've tried. And it didn't just happen. He worked at it. All throughout the season of Lent. In fact, I want to give you a sense of how much effort went into this Exultet. We've got a short little video queued up for you that I just want to share with you.
Cry like a baby. Remember, we're making a sound.
That's right. He takes this stuff very, very seriously. Anyways, that was my Lenten penance, every single day dealing with that, all throughout the season of Lent. So I'm glad Easter's here. But I want to go back to that moment, right? So it's dark, there's light scattered throughout the church, and it reminds me of gazing at the stars. You ever done that? I have so many fond memories, and it's a bit hard to see that, but so many fond memories of being up at the cottage, a warm summer evening with some friends, going down to the dock, laying out, and just looking up at the stars. Just this expanse of beauty, myriads of lights everywhere. And I can recognize just a couple of constellations, you know, the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, Orion's Belt, that's about it. But just laying there in wonder and awe, looking at the stars. And it's even better when there's a meteor shower, right? And you get to see the occasional shooting star. Now, I'm that guy who I usually blink right when they come. And so it's like, friends will be like, just look up into that dark spot in the sky, and you'll be sure to see one. And I'm looking. And inevitably I miss it. I'm that guy, right? And it makes me ask the question, how is it that some people can see the light when others only see darkness? You know, and I tend to be kind of a glass half empty guy. I wish it wasn't the case, but it's true. I don't always see the light. And in fact, there's been so many things over this last year that have caused darkness. And it goes without saying, the global pandemic, right? So many people suffering and dying, restrictions. In fact, all of you who are watching online right now, probably you would love to be here with us. And there's a pain in being separated from this community. I know for myself, over the last year, there's been moments where I've felt exhausted, I've felt disconnected, I felt frustrated, and it's been hard to see the lights. You know, one of the impacts of this pandemic is the toll that it has taken on our mental health. And just a couple days ago, I was praying for people who struggle with mental health issues, and particularly anxiety. And I was just starting to list off on my fingers, count the number of people in my own life, close to me, who I know, who struggle, at least moderately, if not seriously, with anxiety. And without even trying, I came up with a list of 30 names. And I realized there's an epidemic. There's an epidemic of suffering, and it must be hard to see the lights from that place. For so many, the question arises, and the wonder, will things ever get better? You know, as we look at society, at politics, at legislation, at education. You know, just the other day I was at a dinner party and we got talking and the way the conversation went, it was like, there's something wrong with the world. There's something that doesn't feel right. Of course, there's good things, but it seems like we're trending in the wrong direction. And even the church, there's serious challenges. There's division, there's darkness. And if we're honest, if we look inwards too, we see our own personal sin. And I include myself. And how much that being stuck in patterns of sin, in habits that we know are unhealthy, that are hurtful to ourselves, to other people, certainly to God. And how when we're stuck in darkness, how that makes it hard to see the light. And I'm going to name one more, and that is the fear of death. And I think if the pandemic has revealed anything to us, it's that the whole world is afraid of dying. And we will stop at nothing to avoid death, to delay death. We'll shut down the economy. We'll shut down travel. We'll give up freedoms, basic human interaction to beat death. Now, just to be clear, you know, I'm not all for death. I think we should be wise and prudent, and I'm praying for an end to this pandemic. But I think what's become clear is COVID-19 is not the core issue. At its core, we're afraid of death. And yeah, it's wonderful that Big Pharma, they're working on vaccines. Well, it'd be great if they could work on a vaccine for death, because that's really got us in its grip. And I ask the question again, with so much darkness, how is it that some can see the light? You know, I think back to that first Holy Week 2,000 years ago. What was it like for those first followers of Jesus, those disciples, when Jesus was arrested and tortured, crucified, and died? No doubt they experienced the depth of darkness. And they probably were dealing with severe grief, with sadness, maybe even anxiety, depression, the thinking that things won't get better. Stuck in their own personal sin. With the exception of John, every single one of them ran away and they hid. And Peter, their supposed leader, he was the greatest sinner of all. He denied Jesus 3 times. His rabbi, his master, his personal friend. He lied through his teeth, saying that he didn't even know Jesus. Why do you think they ran away? Why do you think they hid? Because they too were afraid of death. They were afraid that they would be subject to the same demise as Jesus. And all of this is captured just in this brief line in the Gospel of John, which we'll actually read tomorrow morning, where it says this: early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb. See, not only was it still dark outside, but it was still so very dark inside. And when Mary gets to the tomb, she finds the stone is rolled away and the tomb is empty, and so begins the greatest plot twist of all time. They all thought Jesus was dead, and that was the end. But God had a plan B. And just when it seemed like darkness had won, Jesus Christ rose from the dead. He conquered death with his brilliant light. By dying, he destroyed the power of death. And by rising, he restored life. You see, Easter is not just this time we come together to maybe get a little bit of a spiritual boost. No, we're celebrating the most significant event of the year, the most significant event in all of human history. The resurrection changed everything. It's central to the Christian faith. And you might ask, well, what difference does the resurrection make for us? It's this: Jesus rose from the dead, and he wants to share his resurrection with you. He wants you to experience as well new life. He wants you to experience him as risen, as alive, as real today. And one of the indicators that someone has experienced this new life is that they can see the light. The resurrection enables us to see the light even when others can only see darkness. And I think back to, stargazing, looking up at this dark sky, and it's like, I can just only see darkness. And yet, when we encounter Jesus, we're given this capacity to see the light. Now, I used to think that when people have this encounter with Jesus, that it was this instantaneous thing, that it was always just like you kind of flip the switch, and instantly the lights go on, bang, kind of like we did today, and suddenly you can see. And that is true in some cases, but I think for many, Jesus reveals himself very gently, very gradually. And I go back to the gospel again for tomorrow morning from John chapter 20, and it says this. Mary, she goes, by the way, she runs away, she goes to tell the other disciples, and Peter and John come running back to the tomb. And it says this: then the other disciple, who is believed to be John, who reached the tomb first, also went in, and he saw and believed. What do you think John saw when he went inside the tomb? He didn't see anything. I mean, he saw some cloths that were there, right? These linen cloths, this head cloth that was rolled up and laid to the side, and of course there was this theory at first that grave robbers had come and stolen the body, which doesn't make any sense at all, right? The most valuable thing in that tomb were the cloths. They wouldn't have left the cloths behind and taken a naked corpse and run away with it. What did he see? We don't know, but we know this. We know that he saw and believed. And think about this. John went into a tomb which is cold and dank and stinky and dark and filled with death. And he was able to see the light. The resurrection enabled John to see the light, and the resurrection can enable us to see the light. And for John, the way it played out, it was kind of like a dimmer switch, I want to say, where he started, it's like 2 and 2. It was starting to come together for him, and the light was slowly coming on. And it was finally on that moment later that day when Jesus appeared to them in the upper room, where it was like, bingo, the lights went on full blast. It's like, Jesus is alive. It's true. Encountering Jesus changed everything for John, and for all the disciples. Remember how they were filled with grief and sadness and anxiety and sin and even the fear of death? Well, that was blasted away by Jesus and his light. When he is risen and they experienced that, all of that was transformed. In fact, these same guys that were so afraid to die, they looked directly into the darkness of death. And all of them, with the exception of John, were martyred for the faith. They came to discover you don't have to be afraid of death. Because Jesus has destroyed the power of death. Jesus is the vaccine to death. He is the one who saves us, and his salvation extends even beyond this life. And Jesus wants us to experience him as alive. He wants to share that life with us, and he wants us to be able to see lights even when others can only see darkness. So I ask this question, do you want to be able to see Jesus, the light? Do you want to be able to see him? I guess the alternative is this. You can complain that there's a lot of darkness, and there is. You can live in the fear of death, and many do. But if your heart is open and you're willing, Jesus will offer himself to you in a gentle way, often in a gradual way. I share this experience. It happened to me about 10 days ago. I woke up in darkness, and I'm not a morning person. So I dragged my carcass out of bed, and I went upstairs to pay homage before the sacred pot of coffee. And I poured myself a cup, and I was heading back down, and just out of the corner of my eye, I saw this orangey red glow out of the window along the horizon, and I was drawn towards it. And so I sat down by the window. And for the next 30 or 40 minutes, I watched as that glow started to change, and the pinks came out, and the yellows, the navy blue sky turned to brighter and brighter shades of blue. And by the way, that was not my view. My view was very obstructed. There was trees and telephone wires and rooftops and all this in the way. But at one point, there was this speck of sunshine that burst through. And it was amazing, the emotion that was welling up within me. It was like, this is what I've been waiting for. I've been longing for the sun to rise. And forgive the pun, but I've been longing for Jesus, the sun, to rise. And there I was with this feeling as the glow was growing. I was like, I should go get my brother priests. I got to tell them. Maybe I should wake up the neighbors. Do people even know that this is happening? This is this natural experience, but it became supernatural, that I was able to see and be reminded that Jesus is rising. And let me tell you something. He is bringing the light. He is bringing the light into the darkness. And I was reminded of this song that Christian artist Matt Maher composed. It's called Alive Again. There's this line in which he says, I can see the lights before I see the sunrise. Right? With the resurrection, we're given the ability to see the lights, even when others can only see darkness. I'll give you this last example. One of the great heroes of my lifetime, Pope John Paul II, throughout his papacy, he kept talking about this new springtime. And his critics were like, dude, what are you talking about? Now, they probably didn't address the Pope as dude. They were probably like, Holy Father, what are you talking about? like we don't see it. We just see darkness. Like he was Pope from 1978 to 2005. And during that time, yes, there were some good things, but there were many ways in which the church and the world, again, moving in the wrong direction, more and more darkness. What is it, and I was reflecting on this, what is it that John Paul II could see that no one else could see? And I think it's this. He looked off to the horizon, to the farthest point, and he squinted his eyes, and he could see Jesus alive. And if Jesus is present there, then we're in good hands. Everything is going to be okay. The future looks bright. I want to end in prayer. And I want to pray for that person here today or watching online who's just been overwhelmed by darkness. And it's very understandable, especially over this last year, so much all at once. And I want to pray for that person who's afraid of death. Maybe you're even thinking, I shouldn't be afraid of COVID, or I shouldn't be afraid of death, but you are. Or there's somebody that you love, and you're paralyzed with fear that they might die. And I want to pray for that person who stumbled in today, maybe here in this church, maybe online, you found the feed somehow, and you're not even sure maybe why you're here, why you're watching, what you believe. But I want to pray for you because Jesus is risen and he is here right now with us. So if you would, just close your eyes and open your heart. Just even a crack to let that first ray of sunlight come in. Dear Jesus, I believe that you have truly died and that you are risen to new life. You have conquered death. There is no darkness on earth that can stop you. Jesus, we want to share in your resurrection. Give us the gift of new life. Jesus, enable us to look directly into darkness and see the light.